have become complete, survived the birth of harnessing Earth's energy.
So, that's lame.
You can't be too critical, okay? This was the first album you'd ever written.
No, I love this. You ever look at your childhood photos and you see yourself in that awful like Halloween costume and you're just like, that was a good day. But you're like, oh god, I looked so dumb. That's how I feel now. Like I'm looking at this and I'm getting all these fond memories, but I'm like, boy.
Boy, have we moved on.
Yeah. Okay, so the structures of this planet have become complete, survived the birth of harnessing Earth's energy.
Okay.
It's like just literally what it's saying.
Okay.
Right? So
normally you write super figurative, but in this case you were being very literal.
I was being totally literal. Like, although if you think about it, it doesn't like make any sense. The structures of this planet have become complete. Like, stone huts were complete in like 200 BC. So that's kind of a strange, like, hey guys, we finished buildings. It's like,
moving on.
Cool. Survived the birth of harnessing Earth's energy. That line is just talking about how, like, maybe, you know, when the societies on the planet, on Earth, were moving towards renewable energy, people were like, don't do that. I don't think that's a good idea. And then other people are like, I think it's a good idea. And then there's friction. That's it. That's it, really. It's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, I figured as much. I mean, this first album is probably going to be very straightforward.
Oh, yeah. Look, I mean, look at this. Calculations have brought this civilization to global scales, and they prevailed. That, they used math.
But okay, yes, but I want to point this out. Calculations and civilization rhyme.
So they do.
Ah, there it is.
Enough anyway. But yeah, that's really all that's saying as I look at this is it's like they made plans and they worked.
Yeah.
Calculations that brought this civilization to global scales and they prevailed. All right, I got to eat my words. There's a rhyming scheme there. It's because I didn't know. I didn't know better. So yeah, basically like what a silly way to say they used math.
Yeah, I mean, but here's the thing. As a lyricist, you have to complicate sometimes simple ideas in order to, like, syllabically fit a phrase.
That's true.
So sometimes you have to extrapolate on a very simple idea with more complex words just so you can be like, I want to do this kind of pattern. Bah, 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 bah. Mm-hmm. But it's like, I just wanted to say open the pickle jar. But now I need to be like way...
That's very true. But you're 100% right, and I appreciate you giving me credit. But that sentence... That section there is basically the same level as saying, you can tell it's an aspen by the way it is.
You can tell it's an aspen because of how it is.
This next stanza is actually not bad.
Yeah.
It's not bad. Isolated culture. You read it.
I was going to say, I'll read it. You explain it.
Yeah.
Okay. Isolated cultures from a nucleus.
Form.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You gotta read
Let's try
right.
it again.
Yeah.
Isolated cultures form a nucleus, breaking social strain, opposing thought released.
So... This stanza is not that bad. So what this stanza is talking about is that in Nikolai Kardashev's, that's right, we stole the last name. In his like theoretical thing, he basically was like, global cultures would kind of eventually have to become one culture. You know, to some degree. Like maybe not everybody's identical, but there's like one or two currencies. Rather than having a bunch of governments that are like, eat a nuke. Yeah, it's like one government that mostly cooperates with itself, right? And that's kind of what it's talking about. So all of these isolated cultures, right, out here, coming together and forming one cohesive cell, nucleus, right? So that's kind of cool. Breaking social thought, opposing thought, or breaking social strain, opposing thought released. That's kind of cool. Basically just people kind of getting past their differences and being like, yo, if we're going to survive, we should probably start polluting each other's oceans. And people were like, I know.
Yeah, they should all stop polluting each other's oceans. Also, like, maybe get over the pettiness of whatever it could be. Like, it could be skin color, it could be religions or gods, it could be whose currency is worth more, who has more assets. It's like we're all in this together for this one idea of, like, tier one.
Could be like when you go to, like, a shop and the shop owner says to you, rap music is the dirty armpit of music, and he doesn't realize he's talking to two fans of rap music.
I love rap. So when he said that, here's the thing, we didn't even disclose that we liked metal. We just mentioned that, I mean, maybe we look like we like metal, I don't know. But We just mentioned that, like, oh yeah, and like they're playing some kind of loud rap music, and then he hits us with that, and we're like, no, like the music was just too loud. Like that was the only problem.
Yo, hit me with some mumble rap. I'm into it.
Yo, hit me with Ghostmane. I'm into it.
Ghostmane, yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Shout out to Griselda, New York, fly as shit. Okay, so that whole stanza is basically the Earth has to come together societally or socially or economically or something. Okay, so then we move on to the third one. Past their organic lattices and those of their beasts, they have harnessed the technique of using the unseen to utilize. Earth's energy, I'm pretty sure, is missing there.
No, it's not.
Oh, to utilize.
It's not. Yeah, so I'll talk about that in a second. So,
wow.
Really funny thing. So Maya, who mixes and masters all our music.
Here we go.
He was like, hey guys, let's talk a little bit about articulation. Now, to this day, I somewhat disagree with him. I think that articulation in metal vocals is only as important as you want it to be. Like, yo, if you're a metal vocalist and you want to sound like utter, like, demonic sludge in, like, Satan's drainpipe, you do it. Do it. The fun thing about metal is we don't have... Your rules are that you're safe and that you sound cool. Done. That's all. But he made a good point, so he wanted me to be more articulate, but he did teach a good lesson, which is like, you should at least not try to sound like you're saying something silly. So I'm going to ruin this song for anybody who still listens to it.
Here we go.
It sounds like I'm saying, we sell organic lettuces on the, we sell organic lettuces.
Yeah.
On the album. But this is basically saying, like, you know, rather than, like, plowing fields with, like, you know, two cattle like yoked together and past like relying on your own body's health, they've created a system in society where they can, and this is the whole thing with the Kardashev scale, is it's the utilization of technology to the betterment of a society. So like if you're like, oh, they rely on technology for their health versus their own bodies, you could create a dystopian story out of that, which would be really cool. But if it's dystopian, it's not the Kardashev scale, right? It's not. The Kardashev scale is like, let's think about a society at its technological best.
Like a technological utopia.
Exactly,
yeah.
Right? So, like, you could read that and be like, oh, I don't know about that. And it's like, first of all, it's all theoretical. Second of all, it's only talking about a good situation.
Yeah.
And so what the reason, so if you read this stanza, it sounds incomplete, right? Past their organic lattices and those of their beasts.
Yep.
They have harnessed a technique of using the unseen to utilize. So utilize blends with energy. Utilize blends with energy consumption. The two. So you remember. You remember the band Tyr?
Of course.
There's a song by them.
It's not Sinclair Svisa, is it?
No, it's not. There's a song by them, and this is where I got the idea, where they blend in English to Faroese, and the two stanzas link together. It's led by son of their wolf, they're just four blood brothers going over the edge in Bestein got. So edgin is a word in Faroese.
Wow, but it's the word edge completes the first phrase in English.
Going over the edge in Bestein got. Sargin Shibarlak no tota Sholvorigieniurna. So it ties it, like stitches it together. And I was like, well, I don't know any other lyrics or any other languages to do that, but I'm going to do it here. So that stitches the synonyms together. And that's that.
Okay, that's really cool. I love this. I love this deep dive. This is so. I bet you at some point we had conversed how you wanted to approach this, but it's just how many albums ago, how many years ago, and I have lost all detail.
Probably.
Okay, so then it picks up and it says energy consumption is at 4 times 10 to the 19th power. Why are you doing math right there?
So that, I'm not going to pretend I understand the equation, because I don't. I mean, I know what 4 times 10 to the 19th power means, but put into the greater context of like efficient energy usage on a global level, like, hello. But basically,
same.
That is the equation that Nikolai Kardashev proposed. Their the efficiency level of the technology on an energy usage level would be 4 times 10 to the 19th power. Of what?
Yeah, but lyrically, it was to include part of the theory while also having like something that's in that space lyrics sort of vein, right?
Yeah, and this is actually a really important. This is really important. This is really important. This is a really important lyric writing lesson here. writing mathematical equations is not into your lyrics is not a bad thing, right? It's not, but it should represent you to a degree. Like when I was in Tennessee visiting my aunt and uncle, sitting on like a pull-out bed, like writing these lyrics, and I was so focused on not sounding smart. I had no care whether people were like, wow, Mark's a smart dude, because like most people who know me, they'd be like, Mark's not very good at math. And we had a fan base of 4, so I wasn't trying to trick anybody.
My mom, my dad, his mom, his dad.
Yeah, pretty much. And Rob.
Oh, Rob.
And
I forgot about Rob. So 5.
So 5. But I was so focused on sounding spacey that when I read these lyrics, they don't sound like anything I would say. Like, I do not go through the world and like I don't go through the world and think, nice level of saccharides. You know, like I don't do that, right? But there are people who do, right? Like a mathematician probably would sit there and like look at a building and be like, that's a really interesting angle. I kind of want to calculate it. Maybe I can figure out how far away it is by like the height of the tree, right? And if that is at any way who you are, or at least what you're interested in, you could probably write some pretty convincing lyrics, very convincing lyrics. And these lyrics are not convincing because I was wielding tools that I did not know how to use. But that's basically what it is. And then the next line,
okay,
you can honestly probably just read it and we'll move on.
Okay, energy consumption is at the Earth's command.
It's what it means.
Next. Okay, here we go. This is where it gets a little deeper. The dominant race on...
This hasn't aged well.
Oh, here we go.
I should have used the word. I should have used the word species.
Anyways, the dominant race on Earth has shown resistance to eminent progress. Some sat silent. Can a race so volatile reach our advancement? Can they trace us?
So, this is an area where we actually decided to put in a little bit of narrative.
Yes, I love this part.
So, Nico and I were like, what if there is a race viewing, or a species viewing, like an alien group viewing humanity and watching its advancement, right? Certainly not a new idea, but a fun idea. And so I was like, okay, let's pick this section that's like it's very like the song has drastically changed at this point. And so this is like those aliens being like, they're picking up speed. Are they going to be like contenders? It's basically, for my Star Trek fans, like, you know, when Starfleet notices a planet's about to reach warp, get warp technology, they'll just like observe the planet for like 10 or 15 years, and some people will like live as the aliens, just checking them out, being like, yo, are these people going to bring war to the galaxy? Are they going to bring peace? What's it going to be?
Better understanding their civilization.
Because they're gonna. It's like, you know, if somebody was gonna come over to your house, you'd want to know them a little bit, right?
Yeah, sure.
Same thing. So that's kind of what these aliens are doing, and this is where I developed my Chewy sound. So Nico and I, we talk about high vocals, and sometimes we'll say chew on the vocals.
Oh yeah.
So instead of using like a, we might go,
yeah,
chewing. Some sat silent. So that
it's like you're chewing on the words as they come out.
Yeah, that line, some sat silent. That's the first place I ever played with that sound. Some sat silent.
That's so
and
sick.
that's kind of where I developed like that face and that. So that line is kind of where how my high vocals took off. And I remember this was a really fun section to do because it's, you know, it's bum bum bum, and so I was kind of bouncing. This is where I kind of started playing with meter. The dominant race on Earth has shown resistance. Yeah, so it's kind of plodding.
Yeah.
The section is kind of predictable, and that let me kind of bounce around the rhythm, and I just really had a lot of fun with that.
Yeah, one thing that I really like about this from a lyrical and like a vocal sort of approach, like the way that you actually play out the vocals in your performance, is that once this is delivered, anybody who looks back in the lyrics, like just reads back previous stanzas, it seems like there's this inferred narrator now. Because like up until this point, you're just stating facts. Like they've harnessed the Earth's energy. Okay, that who fucking cares? They've moved past their lattices. Here's their energy consumption. Like, you're just stating facts. But when you get to this point, retroactively looking back, it could almost be like they're evaluating the Earth's ability to like get to where they're at.
Yeah.
I love that. I think that's super cool.
I'm glad. The only reason I'm smirking is because when you say you're just stating facts, I just want to be like, I'm just stating facts. Why are you mad, bro?
Why are you mad, bro?
Why are you mad, bro? They're just facts.
Why are you mad, bro? Facts is facts, man.
So that's the only reason I'm smirking. No, I totally agree with what you're saying, and I think that this is kind of where you and I together, because a lot of times, some people don't realize this, a lot of times the lyrics and the patterns are written while I'm in the vocal booth, and Nico will be like, do this, try that. So a lot of these things, like the vocal performance is entirely me until we get to the almanac.
And then I have one spot.
And all the humming.
Whatever.
And so, but like the sections and the performance, that's very collaborative between you and I.
Yeah, Mark really comes to the plate with all of the like big ideas, and then as he goes to execute them, I make small suggestions like, hey, the syllables here seem a little short. Let's see if we can modify one of the words to double the syllable count. That way you come down on the downbeat of the next verse or something like that.
Yes.
Did you zone out for a second?
No, I was reading ahead, and I was just like, that's a cool section.
Don't read ahead.
That's a bad section.
I mean, you know these lyrics, just don't read ahead.
I know, but I haven't thought about them in so long.
I know. Okay, so let's move on. So let's after that one. So the next stanza. During cultural fusion, many became one global nation. They fought themselves.
So this section I actually think I did really well.
Okay.
If you go back and listen to this song...
I'll put it in right now.
If you go back and listen to this song... Have fun noticing that I'm always slightly offbeat. I'm rushing the whole song a little bit. This section I think I actually performed pretty well. So this is very narrative. This is the first time we ever did the narrative. So things like the I was a pilgrim and now I was lost.
From the almanac.
From the almanac, right? All of that kind of comes from this, right? And so I couldn't figure out what to do because if I remember the song correctly, it's just bum, bum, they fought themselves, right? And so it's something cool that happened from a misconception. At this point in my vocal journey, I thought that as the vocalist, I had to, if there was a section of the song, I had to scream over it.
Yep.
I had to scream over it.
Yep.
And it wasn't that I thought it was bad not to, I just felt that that was the expectation I was kind of putting on myself. I think part of that is also because this first album sounded very, there was a heavily Black Dahlia.
Oh yeah.
There was a heavy Black Dahlia Murder influence because you were still in composer.
Yeah, I was still writing riffs like that.
Which is a very Black Dahlia influenced band. And so, Trevor Strnad, he don't stop, right? And so you don't have to scream over the whole song if you don't want to. But in this section, Nico and I, we were like, what if you just did some like, what do we call it? Like screamy preachy or like...
Oh, we called them preachy vocals.
Preachy vocals because it sounds like...
Like a preacher at like a podium in a church who's just like, and to Jesus Christ, and this here...
Glory be to God! Right?
Yeah, that's
so
it.
we were kind of... And that actually came from an old track that we did back when you were living with your mom and I was at NAU.
Oh my God, what track
All
was
we saw far from the sun.
Which is tier 2, actually.
Yeah, that song turned into tier 2.
Yeah, it did.
So here, I think I did this pretty well because I just sort of belt in my high vocals. During cultural fusion, many became one global nation.
Yep.
So it's very narrative. I think I did a good job there.
I think so too.
I'm proud of that.
Especially when the musicality isn't implying what you should do.
Yeah, and
it's
that's
just holding chords.
And that's a tough thing too. You know, oftentimes I feel like as a vocalist, our role is to meet the needs of the song. But sometimes, and that's the thing, y'all, my fellow vocalists, is that the way you vocal, like, I can't tell you how to vocal, right? But I can highly suggest that you are predominantly there to supplement the song, right? To meet the song's needs. However, sometimes you'll have sections where the song's like, you do it, and you're like, okay.
Yeah, when the rhythm section stops its complexity and goes for rudimentary, and then you're like, okay, it's time for something to shine, and I guess I'm all that's left.
Yeah,
yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's what this was, and I think you know, together we made it work.
Yeah, we made that one work for sure. So let's move on to the next one here. We're almost done with song 1. It is the structures of this planet will soon be obsolete. They'll lift a skyward eye to the new source of to a new source of energy.
Yeah. So this, who's they? Is it the buildings?
they'll lift a sky. No, this is the aliens narrating about, like, it's like they're talking amongst each other while observing the Earth, and they're saying, you know, the structures of this planet will soon be obsolete.
Yeah.
They will lift a skyward eye to a new source of energy, which, I'm gonna just jump in here, Mark. That's Mark implying that we're about to get to tier 2, where the sun around that planet, or that the planet's going around, is gonna be their new source of energy, and they're taking a skyward eye at it.
That is true.
Yeah.
But I will say that,
God damn it, here we go.
if you're gonna writing vague is a skill, and it's one that I'm still learning. If you're gonna write vague, writing vague is not the same as writing confusing, right? So you're right, that's the aliens talking, but nobody knows about aliens yet.
That's true.
There's nothing. So to just the normal reader, the structures of this planet will soon be obsolete. They'll lift a skyward eye.
Wait, the buildings.
The
will lift a
buildings are
skyward
they?
eye?
So I think the section's cool. I think it's cool how we started alluding to the next song.
Yeah.
Poorly written.
So be it. The final stanza here: exploration of global advancement, integral for stellar achievement.
This was actually really fun.
This was fun.
This was our vocoder section, and I remember that Nico, you had really introduced me, because I still don't know a whole lot about music as far as like a theory perspective.
Me either.
But you had introduced me to just like the concept of polyrhythms. Like, we'd all heard what polyrhythm. You hear polyrhythms in music, but you were like, this is a polyrhythm. It's when you have two time signatures of two rhythms kind of working together, but they don't conflict, they supplement. And I was just like, whoa, right?
Fractions.
So in the back we have this pseudo breakdown, bump, 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 and over top, I wanted to do that, but I wanted to keep it simple because I was not used to counting time. I was not used to like anything complex. So I was just like bump, 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 right? So I picked words that are very choppable. Exploration of global advancement, integral for stellar achievement. But I kind of gave it there's a little bit of a
like a cadence to it.
Exploration of global advancement, integral for stellar achievement.
Yeah,
so
it's like a swing, very light swing.
I accentuated certain sections, but this was really hard for me to do too, because at this point, I hadn't been singing for very long. Like, I did choirs in like church and school and everything like that, but I just wanted to be a metal vocalist, right? And so this is a section that is kind of sung, and that was hard. Exploration of global advancement, integral for stellar achievement. Right, that was pretty shitty, but I couldn't do that in all one breath. That was really hard because I was still singing like this. Exploration, right? But no, that was a fun section to do. That was a fun section. I think it kind of turned out okay. I think it was alright.
You know, I like looking at this song holistically, that you don't know that there's aliens, you just know that there's like factual narrative going on, and then there's a stanza that implies that someone's observing someone, and then by the end of the song, you have this really cool final line that's going to come back in the upcoming Tier 2 and Tier 3 songs, where you say exploration of global advancement, integral for stellar achievement, and just to move forward without giving spoilers, the second song finishes with exploration of stellar advancement, integral for galactic achievement.
Yeah.
And it's like this really cool cliffhanger, sort of, like lyrically. Okay, so that's Tier 1. Thanks for that's pretty sick. I love hearing those like micro memories, because I always forget about them.
You're welcome.
Alright, so let's talk about Tier 2.
Wait, let's start Tier 2 with a shot of Chinar.
I'm glad I have Gatorade. 'Cause
Listen, okay, here's the thing.
you're gonna be liquidated by Tier 3.
First of all, this is a very low alcohol volume. Second of all, I don't have any lessons tomorrow. All I'm doing tomorrow is playing D&D, and I have to follow such a strict to be on my vocal game. I have to like go to bed at the same time, wake up every time, like lower my caffeine, no heavy sugar the night before, no spicy foods the night before. So you know what? I'm gonna enjoy some shots today.
All right, well, you enjoy your shots.
They're gross. Cheers.
While you're doing that, so Tier 2, Stellar Advancement. This is referencing the second tier in the Kardashev scale, where we've now looked at solar energy consumption. So if you were on Tatooine in the Star Wars universe and you had 2 suns, maybe there'd be 2 Dyson spheres around them. But this is where we start to incorporate megastructures that Kardashev is a little bit better known for.
Correct. And interestingly enough, for the song that we play the least, and for the song that musically we like the least,
yeah,
all of the Kardashev lore grew from this song.
Yep, this song right here inspired an entire EP, which then inspired another EP, and so on and so forth. But this is the song that really did it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's because we just both thought Dyson spheres were really cool.
Yeah,
and
I mean, superstructure, megastructures like that are
they're
awesome.
just neat. And in a Dyson sphere, did you just? I don't think you mentioned what they were.
No, I didn't.
So a Dyson sphere is essentially there are different ideas. Either a shell around a star, around the whole star, or like orbiting power stations around a star that suck up the star's energy. So imagine, rather than a solar power being on Earth, a fleet of solar panels just orbiting the star.
Yep.
And the light hits like either light sails or like a photosynthetic
shield,
photovoltaic. I mean,
oh, that's gonna come into play.
Yeah, I do use that word. I was really proud when I learned that word.
Photovoltaic's a cool word, man.
Anyway, so that's what a Dyson sphere is, and that's what this song is about.
Yeah, that's what it's about. So let's get into it. So, stanza 1. Earth colonies encompass the sun. Power pulled from their energetic trellis. Exploratory engineering is now tangible. This race fully grasps solar power.
There's really not a lot you can go into there. And I don't think, that's actually not that bad. That's not that bad. Earth colonies encompass, because, no, that's important, because we wanted to establish an idea that people lived on these stations.
There it is.
Because we thought, like, well, maybe they would have to like live off-world if we needed this much energy and the energy is efficient. Then that means that this isn't coming from a lack of proper use. It's coming from needing to basically feed the energy uses of more people.
Expand. Yeah.
Where are more people going to live? Maybe on these stations. Now, that's probably not our original idea. I'm sure a lot of people have talked about it, but that was kind of our line of thinking. So Earth colonies is actually kind of important. Powerful, pulled from their energetic trellis. Oh, that's a line talking about how some of the power gets sent back to Earth.
To the planet, yeah.
Right? Exploratory, I used exploratory engineering because that's actually a school of thought. That's like a field of study, exploratory engineering.
It sounds like a fancy version of just like people who like go and look for shit. Like the Lewis and Clark of the space age type of thing.
Sort of. It's kind of like, now, if anybody out there knows more than me, feel free to correct me, but like theoretical physics, which is kind of what this is it's like, yo, this is not physics as it exists and as we know it. This is me kind of playing around with ideas within the confines of the laws of physics that we know. So exploratory engineering is like, yo, these things don't exist yet, but if they did,
yeah,
how would that work? And so theoretical physicists and exploratory engineers and things like that, they're very valuable because sometimes they have ideas that people work towards. There are some people that say Star Trek has been very much inadvertent exploratory engineering because a lot of their technologies end up happening over time.
Yeah, wasn't like flip phones one of the things that we had first, and then all of a sudden we actually made them because we were like, that's fucking tight.
Yeah, like the first communicators were like these flip out and they're like, hello, like, so like these flip like wireless like walkie-talkies and stuff, and transporters, right? Because now they can like look at like a photon over here or whatever, and then the other one does this thing.
Quantum teleportation and stuff.
Yeah, now they're talking about like warp drive being possible.
Oh my god, sign me up!
And all the writers of Star Trek are like,
Gene Roddenberry's like, so I'm gonna make a nickel, right?
But it makes sense though, because if you think about it, all of these things are based on things that we need, right? We don't fantasize on stuff that would be not useful. Like, dude, you know, it'd be so sick, a piece of plastic, but like when you look at it, it turns purple, but if somebody else looks at it, they don't think it turned purple. It's like, that's not useful.
Yeah, how do we see it?
But if you were like, think about how cool this would be. A car that doesn't need any fuel and actually is bigger on the inside than it is on the outside. Whoa. That's some fantasy stuff, but like that's something that would be useful to people, right?
Yeah.
So anyways, I'm getting off track.
It's kind of like a pragmatic exercise though. You're looking for what the most utility version of something is and kind of try to achieve that.
I would say yes, unless you're working towards entertainment, then maybe it's less about utility and that just being cool.
Yep, okay, I'll give you that. All right, so let's move on to the second one here. Oh, also you mentioned this race fully grasps solar power. I'm also kind of wondering if there's that narrative objective overtone of someone sort of looking on this species as they begin to move towards their star.
Here's what I'm going to say.
Yeah.
I'm going to say that the part of Mark that wants to make myself look better would say, yeah, that's totally what that was.
Yeah, it was by design.
But the part of Mark that was brand new to lyric writing is kind of thinking, maybe I just wasn't thinking about voicing.
There you go.
So I'm writing about this race, which again, we should have used species, but I'm writing about this group of people, so I'm going to say this group of people because that's my view. I would say this bottle, so I'm gonna write this bottle, versus what the person in the lyrics would say. That's what I think probably mostly happened, but it's a mistake that lends itself well.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying too, is like, looking back on it, I definitely have rose-colored glasses because I don't remember all of the like errors that we were putting ourselves through. Okay, so the second stanza here. Cosmic habitats in orbiting formation. Complexity is elegance, all transfers wade through space. Just speaking that, I can hear the metering in my head.
Cosmic habitats in orbiting formation.
Complexity is elegance, all transfers wade through space.
So this is a rephrasing of the first stanza, and sometimes that's okay. Sometimes it's all right to restate something. It can be valuable if it's worth restating, right? Not everything is worth restating. So, for example, if I was to say, this is a shot glass, there's not really any value in saying that again.
Look at this small glass.
Right? I'd be like, thanks, Nick, I just said that. But with complex ideas, sometimes it can be valuable. I don't know that this warranted being restated, but I think I did it kind of all right. I think I could have moved on. But I think the most important thing here is the line complexity and elegance, because complexity is elegance, because I remember thinking to myself, like, at this point, the reader doesn't know if we're writing about a dystopia or not.
Interesting.
They don't know. Like, they could read this and be like, oh man, a whole society where everybody uses the same currency and there's one government. You can see, right? And so I was like, no, this is a positive thing. Like, this is saying the idea worked out well. And again, it's just, this is fantasy, right? So I didn't want it to get all hooby scooby. So that's the whole reason for that line. I was like, I just want to put this in a positive light.
Yeah.
We're writing about positive things here.
Yeah, punctuate it with intent.
Yeah.
Okay, so then the next one here is only 2 lines. Patterns in the rings intercept solar output. Seems very literal.
This is actually a cool line. I forgot about this. So this is from the perspective of the aliens. So one way that they see if there are planets around
the SETI project.
Yeah, one way that they see if there are planets around stars and if there might be like inhabitants or like other things around stars is if the solar output has a cyclical impediment, right? Between it, and again, I'm not an expert, so feel free to correct me, between it and the receiver. So for example, let's say that you're here,
yeah,
and you've got light coming in through your window,
okay,
and something goes across the window.
You're like, oh, maybe it's just a shadow or an airplane.
Like a bird, or like, I know there are branches out there, but let's say that it's sort of rhythmic. Every 5 minutes, it's whoom. You're gonna be like, what the heck, right? And so it's kind of like that, but just utilizing light and solar energy from like trillions of light years away.
Yeah.
And so that's them being like, yo, continuity-wise, this is a big error, because this would be what would happen when you first realize something's out there. And I'm saying this in the second song,
and which they've already identified them.
Yeah, so that would be like if we like found animal droppings and fur and trails, and then after we had all established it was a white-tailed deer, I was like, yo, there are deer out here. You'd be like, we got to that conclusion 4 hours ago,
Which
Mark.
is why we kept pursuing this.
Yeah, so it's kind of a mistake in that sense, but like, these are things I had to learn. I didn't really think about continuity across multiple tracks this way.
That's really interesting. I feel like you've grown a lot since this, and we'll get into that in future albums.
I made this same mistake in the Almanac, I'm pretty sure.
Oh god, we'll get there. We'll get there. Let's go to the next line. Okay, so now we kind of like harken back to the illusion of this, that the Wikipedia sort of version of this line, which is energy consumption is at 4 times 10 to the 33rd power, when in the previous one you said energy consumption is at 4 times 10 to the 19th power.
Yeah, and it's just the same thing.
Okay, so we're just establishing we're on the second tier of this hypothetical scale.
Yeah, just making it as blatant as possible using making it as blatant as possible to all of the people who are so familiar with this, equation that I don't understand.
Yeah, all of the hypothetical nerds that are way deep into this and love death metal.
Well, that's kind of silly if you think about it. Like, hey, I want to make this abundantly clear by stating something confusing that nobody, including myself, really knows about.
Well, I mean, so if I can romanticize the idea, we were hoping to instill some sort of intrigue that when you read this, you're like, I wonder what that means, and you take the deep dive into maybe this video or our website, whatever the fuck.
That's true.
That's kind of what I'm hoping for.
I'll give you that.
Now.
I'll give you that.
I don't think we thought of it then, though. Okay, so next stanza here. Terrestrially synthesized, a cloud of collection, energetic shell, photovoltaic.
This is really where I learned to scream over very difficult time signatures.
Is this the 2316 part?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
This riff is in 2316.
Yep.
And I should have just shut up, but I didn't. And so I remember thinking about, I was like, I cannot tell what's going on in the chaos. And I was like, okay, what's one thing that I can listen to reliably? And I think it was the ride, or no, the crash. But in the chaos of all, like, it doesn't sound like chaos, but, you know, it doesn't mean I understand. Like, if you listen to a section, you're like, oh, that's amazing. Like, it doesn't necessarily mean I can understand what's going on. Like, I love Altered State, but some of their polyrhythms, I'm like, this is the most organized chaos I've ever heard, and I love it, right?
Shout out to Tesseract.
Shout out to Tesseract. So it was kind of like one of those situations. And so what I did, if you are having trouble writing a section, or writing lyrics to a section because from your perspective it's so chaotic, find the one thing that you can latch onto. Like maybe the guitars are going and the bass is just going all over the place. Is there a cymbal going there it is, right to that. Don't care about anything else.
That's your beacon in the storm.
And I haven't listened to this song probably in 6 years. So, no, probably more recently than that, but over a year for sure. So I don't remember what it was. But I remember I just listened for that, and I would just shout a couple syllables so I didn't go off track. Because, you know, sometimes this, it's like car blinkers. Sometimes this, now it doesn't work anymore.
And you're like, why?
Why? So, terrestrially synthesized, a cloud of collection, energetic shell, photovoltaic, you know, and so I just kept it there. But it's essentially, this is again a restatement of stanzas 1 and 2.
There
That's
you
all
go.
it is.
Okay, so repeating yourself in more unique ways. Okay, then we move on to the next one. Atypical wavelengths beyond perception may alert attention.
Sounds a lot like patterns in the rings intercept solar output, doesn't it?
There it is. So like they're the same thing, just worded differently. Then we come down to the next stanza. Cosmic habitats in orbiting formation. Complexity is elegance. All transfers wade through space. I think this is a very important piece. Do you know why?
Why?
It's the first inclination that there's some sort of chorus.
That's true.
Between these two songs, which were the first ones we had written as under the Kardashev name, we did not have a traditional chorus in any way, shape, or form.
That was a goal. We wanted a song not to repeat any section from start to finish.
Yep.
And so when I wrote this, because I couldn't think of anything else, I felt like I failed a little bit.
Nah.
But now we love a good like chorus. And we love like a repeating hook.
What's that thing? We're really good at writing outros. Wasn't that it? Like I'll write something and Mark's just like, cool, so this is the outro, and I like write another thing and he's like, cool, so this is another outro, and it's like we gotta write the meat and potatoes, man.
We've probably got like 5 gigs of just outros.
We have all of the desserts, but we have no main dishes.
Yeah.
We gotta write more main dishes. Okay.
So I say the same thing again.
Yeah, so you repeat this self, and then you say patterns in the rings intercept solar output, which is sort of like the secondary part of the chorus to a degree. And then that leads us to the last line, which is the allusion back to the first song, exploration of stellar advancement, integral for galactic achievement.
Mm-hmm. And that's alluding to song 3.
Yeah, and this is kind of cool. I don't know if you noticed this, but I've done this analysis before.
Talk to me.
You use the word exploration here. And the first one is called global exploration. So this word starts the phrase, and it's also the first tier. So it's like the earlier, like they're both early in the phrasing. I don't know. I just thought that was
totally did that on purpose.
No. Okay, so now we're on to tier 3 galactic achievement, which doesn't have many lyrics. This is when Mark started to learn how to shut up.
No, this is really. I think that this is where where we got our first era sound, where we.
Like this was like the song people could like kind of cling to.
Yeah, so like if you listen, oh, I'm a sweaty mess.
Are you?
If you listen, this is because I'm gross.
Oh, me too.
Oh wait, new song.
Oh fuck.
New song. Who
yeah,
dis?
I'm a sweaty mess. He said. All right, I'm gonna get another Gatorade though.
All right, cool. Let's see if I can pour this slow enough to fill when he gets back. You ready?
Not gonna happen. Your shoulder's gonna get tired. You've been working on your deltoids.
I have.
Excuse me, puppy.
Hurry!
No, my name's Harry.
God damn it.
Use the wrong vowel again. Excuse me, pupper.
Hey, are you guys streaming or downloading anything?
Nope.
I did it.
Oh, hang on, I gotta take a piss.
Cheers.
Tables.
Okay. Pause for a hard cut.
Hold on. How's my beard?
It's good.
All right, here we go.
Hey, does my mouth taste weird?
Gross.
All
Okay, here we go. So
That's Nico's joke. I stole it.
yeah, it is
I
my
keep
joke.
looking at this webcam.
Stop looking at the webcam, dude.
Well, because that's the webcam I look at during my lessons. So it's just like, so I'm looking over here, and then I'm like,
Yeah, look at the $1,000 camera, not the $100 camera.
weird flex.
It's not a flex time. I'm just gonna cut this out.
Okay, good point.
Okay, Tier 3 Galactic Achievement.
Yeah, so this is where I think that we figured out our first era sound. If you think about it, we had a very specific sound from like Tier 1 and 2, like what were we were figuring ourselves out.
Yeah.
Tier 3 all the way through Peripety has a sound. And I kind of think of that as our first like era as far as our sound.
I'll agree with that. It's more like in like the deathcore sort of like, but like soaring deathcore.
Yeah, and we were starting to come up with like this song is how we learned that we love long outros.
Yeah.
This song is how we learned that we love empty space before a build.
Yep.
Yo, like we do that all the time. Empty space,
Boom.
right?
Yep.
Like
Yep.
we do so much of that. You know, it's not just our thing, but a lot of people do it. But this is kind of how we figured out, I think, the kind of band we wanted to be at the time. And this is where we set some of our most fundamental ingredients that still affect our music today. Like we are like in every song we have right now for Rapography. Am I allowed to say the title?
Sure.
Okay, in every song we have right now for Rapography, there are elements of Tier 3 that exist. There is the held out section, there's the soaring outro, which I think we really maximized in the Almanac.
Yeah, definitely.
We really made it work the best in the Almanac.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, so I really enjoyed this song, and this is where I started to like set down the reins a little bit, and where I started to slow down. I realized, you know, I didn't have to be a shotgun. Like people call them shotgun vocals, and I don't understand
They're
that.
machine gun vocals.
Machine gun vocals.
Why do they have to be guns? Sprinklers do that?
But they go like this.
So do vocalists.
I don't know anybody who's going.
Cardi B. For the memes, baby.
Oh god. So anyways, I still like this song. The other two I look at and I think of them nostalgically.
Mm-hmm.
This one is a song that I actually still enjoy. Yeah.
All right, well, let's dig into it.
Okay.
All right, so first line here. The empire is of every conscious mind. This empire builds on multistellar resonance.
So this is yeah.
Hang on, let me start that over. Let's start with the first line. This empire is of every conscious mind. This empire builds on multistellar resonance.
Whenever you want to start over,
Yeah.
count to 5 before you start talking.
Oh, that's a good point.
It'll be an editing trick. Let's start this over.
Okay. This empire is of every conscious mind. This empire builds on multistellar resonance.
I kind of forgot about this. So one thing I thought would be cool, and I think we just added this in, is if like humanity somehow either through like natural selection and evolution or through technology became like telepathic and like sharing their thoughts. But again, not in like a Borg way, in like a very healthy, like beautiful, like connected way. This is, I think, one thing that is important to know about my lyric writing, and this is where it started, is I'm very much about the allegory, right? A really good example of like, oftentimes we'll talk about allegory and we think that that's synonymous with symbol, right? It's a little bit more than that. An allegory sometimes will take a concept that doesn't make a lot of sense, but use it to mean something else. I'm not very good at it, so I'm not trying to be like, oh, I'm a master of allegory, because so many people do it better than me. But one example for my Final Fantasy VII friends is Midgar, right? That city makes no sense. So if you were playing Final Fantasy VII and you were looking at the city being like a literal representation of what like good architecture would be, you'd be like, this is dumb. But if you look at Midgar, the main city, and you see it, there are a lot of rich people on top who can see the sky. There are a lot of poor people at the bottom who don't. You're like, okay, I get it. The designers of this game are less worried about the city being realistic and more worried about telling a story.
The narrative
right?
of it.
The narrative of it, what it means. The story doesn't have to be true or literal for it to mean something, right? Now that's not to say that every fictional story is allegory, and I still am kind of figuring it out, but You understand what I'm saying? So, everybody sharing their mind isn't me being like, wouldn't it be so cool if nobody had private thoughts? It's more like, wouldn't it be cool if, like, there was, like...
No latency between my ideas to your receiving of them?
Less, like, technological and more just, like, societal. Like, I don't feel like I have to hide my ideas and my identity from anybody. Like, I don't have to, like, I can say something, and because we're all chill and peaceful now, I don't have to be like... Uncle Jeff is at dinner tonight. I'm just not even going to touch that subject because I just want to have a good time. Right. So it's more of an allegory for that. That's what it means.
Okay, let's move on to the next line here. Pathfinders have reached the event horizon. Oh God, I love this song.
So, yeah, this is a cool one. So when I said Pathfinders here, and we're going to talk about, we're seeing the first elements of the Kardashev lore
of the next EP.
When I said Pathfinders here, I really just meant it as a cool synonym. Like, I think I literally went to, like, thesaurus.com or thesaurus.org.
Yeah.
Thesaurus. No, thesaurus.
Don't you dare.
What Saurus? I think I literally just went to that website and typed in Explorer, and I was like, Pathfinder sounds cool. So it doesn't mean anything here. We'll talk about what it means later. But, we talked about how cool it would be if they, like, get to the center of the universe and the center of the galaxy, and the center of the galaxy is a black hole.
Yep.
And we don't really take that idea any further. But the event horizon is basically like, isn't that like the point of no escape? Like you are in, maybe not no escape, but like you're in its gravity now. Isn't that what I don't remember what an event horizon is.
The event horizon is when the light can no longer escape the gravity because it's so strong.
Okay, that.
Yeah.
So, hey, we just got a new follow.
Oh, tight. Thanks, Red Jelly Bean 123.
Yeah, thanks, Red Jelly Bean. Anyway, so it's basically like...
This is not live, right? Okay, fuck. Yeah, we're in record mode. I'm like, what the fuck? That was so random.
That would be crazy.
That would be crazy. Okay, so you say
know
here...
What? That might be an idea, though. Do the rest of these live.
I'm down, and then I can just chop them and put them in a video on YouTube later.
Are these Patreon exclusive?
No, it's just for the YouTube.
Dude, we should do these live, because we might get people asking questions.
Well, this is a good run. Do you want to,
we can
always do this again.
Yeah, we can always do this again. Let's finish the video, because it could be good. And plus, like, it's not going to ruin anything if we're like, yo, for the second one, we're going to go live.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Oh, man.
Anyways.
I'm so excited.
That's what that means. They've basically reached the center of the galaxy.
Now, who are the Pathfinders?
It's just humans, at this point.
Okay, so Pathfinder is just humans or whatever species is being observed, which you wrote as humans.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. No, they're definitely humans.
Okay.
It's definitely... So, our original goal, when we started Kardashev, we were totally down with, like, the doom and gloom metal, like, humanity sucks. I mean, I love Cattle Decapitation, and that whole band is like, we're shit, right?
Yeah.
Humans suck. And Cattle Decap is one of my favorite metal bands ever. But that being said, we were like, let's try to take another spin. Rather than space being like alien overlords killing all of us, and rather than humanity being like dog shit, and rather than like a serial killer or like a demon, what if we just talked about humans at their best? Whatever that would look like.
I remember that.
It's a very Star Trek ideal. I love Star Trek, y'all.
What?
And so this anytime really in any album that's Kardashev lore that I'm talking about humans, I'm talking about them as like what we could be.
Yeah.
You know, what
our potential could get
our potential could get to. And I keep it kind of abstract because like values don't tend to age well.
Shots fired somehow.
It's just a human fact.
No, it is. Yeah.
Like when we're 60, we'll look back on this time and we'll be like, yo, those things we thought were messed up.
Yeah, it's gonna happen.
It's gonna happen. But anyways, so that's that. That's that.
All right, so next line here. Literally nobody knows what this means.
I do.
Ostium ad omnis. I know, and you tell us what it means in the next stanza.
Yeah, so...
Ostium ad omnis. Should we just move on and kind of...
No, talk about it.
Okay.
So, ostium ad omnis is bad Latin translation. Like, I literally think I just went to Bing because their translator has Latin, and I typed in door to all. And it popped that out, and I was like, that's probably right. It's probably wrong. But I wanted to do this because door to all, the center of the galaxy being a door to all meaning everywhere,
yeah,
but also all meaning everybody. Like, it's inclusive, y'all. Anybody can hang, right? That's basically what I'm saying, right? This achievement for humanity of like reaching their fullest potential, everybody can do it. Everybody's capable. Everybody can get there. I don't know how. So I wanted it to be kind of like a double layered symbol. Door to all, meaning literally to a place or for everybody.
Okay. Okay, so then in the next line, you kind of explain this a little bit lyrically. You say, an interstellar door which declares, let not ignorance pass, 400 billion spheres hold the stars.
Yeah, so in my idea, there's like this literal ring, like a Stargate, right, or something that's the size of the black hole, so humongous.
So
right?
the event horizon could be this ring, effectively.
It could be, I guess. And I can't remember, but in ancient Rome or Greece, and I mean, literally, it's been over 10 years, I think, since I wrote these lyrics, or close to 10 years.
Close to it. It's 2021.
So I don't remember who, but there was a philosopher in ancient Rome or Greece, Socrates, Aristotle, something, and they had an academy, and over the academy door was carved, "Let not ignorance pass," or something like that. Yeah. Ignorance shall not pass these doors, or things like that. And one reason I liked that is because, again, take all this with a grain of salt, but when I was reading that, some historians read that as stupid people not allowed. Some historians read that as like, come here to learn. So one way people read it is like, fuck stupid people.
It's kind of standoffish.
Yeah, and another way that people read it is like, this is where you come to learn, right? And so I liked the second idea. I liked, you know, it's almost like a ward, right? Like if we think of it like way back a long time ago, like the Lilith bowls.
Yep.
Right? Put in the Lilith, like they used to take bowls and write like inscriptions to like the ancient goddess Lilith and bury them underneath their houses so spirits couldn't rise up, they'd get caught in the bowls was the idea.
Yeah.
So it's almost like a ward. It's warding off ignorance. It's not holding people out.
Or blood around the threshold.
Blood around the threshold. Yeah.
The same kind of thing.
Exactly. So that's kind of what that is. 400 billion spheres hold the stars. That is actually from one of my favorite YouTube videos of all time. Remember that guy that used to auto-tune like Neil deGrasse Tyson?
Oh, yeah. It was something science. It was
Symphony of Science.
Symphony of Science, that was it.
He has Carl Sagan one that's he cuts up Carl Sagan's videos and he's talking about a still more glorious dawn awaits, and he auto-tunes it. It's actually a pretty good song. And I just remember that song being so hopeful, and the song talks about 400 billion stars, and I remember being like, that's a lot.
Yeah.
And I just thought it was beautiful. I thought it was beautiful to think about that many potential solar systems.
Yeah, that's actually a pretty accurate estimate of how many stars are in our solar system.
Yeah.
Based on what they do is they use telescopes to look at like 1 inch, one real world inch of like how much there is, and then they multiply that and extrapolate over what they can perceivably look at, and they think there's about 400 billion stars in our galaxy.
Exactly.
So like it's pretty accurate as far as close. I really like that you added this in here, because when you say 400 billion spheres hold the stars, this harkens back to the tier 2 element where we have the Dyson spheres, or the ring system, or the array, or whatever it is,
yeah.
And how every single one of them, even though the universe is or the galaxy is massive, every single one of them has already been captured for its solar energy.
And that's a requirement for tier 3.
Correct.
Tier 3 is so tier 1 is a civilization that effectively and efficiently uses their planet.
Yep.
Tier 2 is their planet and their system's star or stars.
Stars, could be stars.
Tier 3 is they've done that across the whole galaxy. So every star, every planet, all of it.
Yeah.
And again, efficiently, not in a way that destroys it, but supplements it, right?
Correct.
So it's very harmonious. So yeah, good call out. I would have forgot to mention that, but that is kind of the point of the whole song.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and it's kind of important to bring that back. So let's move to the next one here, where again you sort of touch on their ability. I wanted to mention this when we were talking about tier 2. Maybe it was tier 2. No, it was the first line of tier 3 right here. This empire is of every conscious mind, where you say like everybody can sort of harmoniously have this like thought process. That's okay. Right here you say intercognitive communication. They speak through silence in a harmonic concert of technology and biology. And the first thing that I think of now, 10 years later, is blockchain technology. How the entire network moves synchronously with itself so that nobody's ever out of sync. How neat is that? So like 10 years ago we were like, man, that's kind of a neat idea. And I mean, don't get me wrong, Bitcoin was there, but now I'm like more aware of it. So to me, it's a whole different meaning. So yeah, let's talk about this stanza.
So I don't know much about blockchain technology, but
that's okay.
it sounds really interesting.
I think you dig it.
Probably. But essentially this is me kind of talking more, so I guess I answered my own question from earlier, that it is talking about, you know, we've utilized our technology. And harmonic concert, so this was an idea that I think potentially exhibits a lack of understanding of acoustics. But I was like, what if rather than talking, there was like sub-harmonic, like acoustic waves that like went through people, like our thoughts created like this thrum in like this technology, and then like these subharmonic waves could be picked up by everybody.
Or like my receptors.
Yeah, exactly.
Something.
And then it just jumps from person to person. So the harmonic concert of technology and biology is basically like describing that, like all those people talking together. And again, you know, it's something that, you know, as long as it wasn't evil, could be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Could be pretty neat, right?
Could be pretty neat.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's move to the next one here. Energy consumption is at 4 times 10 to the 44th power.
More numbers, y'all.
Straight from the Wikipedia.
Straight from the Wikipedia.
That is the number that they hypothesize is required in order to achieve a tier 3 level civilization.
Correct.
And then the very last line, which is, I think, one of the coolest cliffhangers that we've ever had written, and I can go deep into it, and I'd love to. You say, and now are we to greet ourselves?
So that means a couple things.
Yeah.
That means a couple things. So one thing that I've just as a person always maybe not struggled. Okay. In peripety, it's struggled. But outside of that, maybe not struggled. But one thing I've always found interesting is just the idea of like knowledge of self, right? Like, who are we? A lot of times when like we've all done those really annoying and awful like get to know each other like work potlucks, icebreakers. So tell us about yourselves, right? And we usually, and it totally makes sense too, a lot of people shit on each other for being like, oh, dude, I hate small talk. Small talk is so dumb. And it's like, I didn't know everybody was expected to bear their deepest secrets to you the moment they meet you.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, no, small talk serves a purpose. It's important. It's for you to feel each other out, to make sure this is somebody you want to be vulnerable around.
Let's mention the weather before I talk to you about how I like anal.
Yeah. Okay. That's a good point. So anyway.
Got him.
You did. So anyway, like most people in that, you know, kind of sterile environment, they'll talk about their hobbies, where they're from, and that's totally fine. That's what I would do, and that's what I'll continue to do, right? But okay, let's take those things away. Who are you? Most people at that point would talk about either their family or their beliefs, right? Cool. Take those away. Who are you? And it's like, I don't know. Like, what are you, like, what's beyond that? And it's like this level of like self-actualization that I think has always been really interesting. I just find that really interesting. Like, who would you be in the middle of the forest with none of the things you define yourself by now?
Especially none of the objects.
Like who, and that's going to be a big thing in peripety because that's huge on minimalism.
It is.
We were both very into minimalism at that point.
Which we're going to then turn on its head for our album we're working on right now, where it's all about your possessions.
All about your possessions. So, yeah, so this means primarily the humans, like, they've done away with all of, like, you know, the frivolous stuff. So
inconsequential, maybe?
That's a good word. Inconsequential things and aspects of life. So who are they at this point? But it's also an allusion to the fact that maybe this alien species and this human species are the same or like distant ancestors, and that's a concept we explore in the Almanac, especially in Beyond Sun and Moon.
Correct. Yeah.
I can't say that this is directly related to that. I can't say when I was writing the Almanac I was like, ooh, let me reference to that. But I think that if you're going to be writing a project for a very, very long time, things that you're continually interested in will cause a natural synchronicity in the things that you write. Because it's just like, I've been interested in self-actualization since I was like 15, right? So if I'm continually writing about those things, I'm gonna kind of get this color scheme through what I write.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's for, I think, anybody.
Yeah, you're like revisiting the same topic with a new perspective.
And that's why it's important to write genuinely, to write in a way that represents yourself. One of the best things you can do is you can write experiences that you know, which is kind of where these lyrics, and again, I'm not jabbing myself. I had so much fun writing these, and I listen to this song and I have these songs and I have a good time. But I think that's why so many of these lyrics miss the mark, because I'm not writing things I know or care about. I'm like, I want to sound like the Contortionist 2.0.
Right.
You know?
Right. I know. I think a lot of that, it was you can see a lot of that in the Bearing of Shadows because none of that subject matter is familiar to you. You're just putting yourself in another one's position and empathizing as best you can.
Yeah, so that album, which we can talk more in detail, is kind of a subversion of what I'm talking about, but not really, because, well, that one we'll have to get to, but that, even though I've never lived any of those experiences, it's something I know very well. What is that something that I know very well?
Stick around.
Stick around. Okay, let's stay the same thing, all right?
Okay.
1, 2, 3.
Stay around.
Stick tuned.
Town.
Stick tunes. Remember those stick fighting games back in the early 2000s?
Remember the videos that you got to watch on YouTube? Oh, the games though.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they'd have like full of gore and blood.
Did you ever get stick animator? You could animate your own stick figure fights?
No.
It was very cool. Anyway.
That would have been super sick.
I think that's it.
Okay, hold on, but one last thing that I want to talk about with the and now are we to greet ourselves, like the whole beautiful aspect that you talked about, but I also think about it more literally where there's a lot of hypothesis around the potential for a black hole to be more of a gateway through space-time, which would allow this hypothetical species of humans to go back in time and start being the observers of themselves, which you had briefly mentioned, but I just wanted to detail it out because to me that's the super sci-fi, like meta overarching narrative that can be inferred on almost all of these songs once we know there's a narrator.
That's dope.
That's the way that I've always perceived it.
I've never thought of it that way, but that's really cool.
Of course not, because like I didn't write these lyrics, so I have to listen to it and make my own imagery, and that's what I think about. Is I'm like, it's the same fucking people. So by the time you listen to the end of Tier 3 and you go into your little space adventure, which is you traveling through the wormhole, you then get back and the song starts over again, and now you're like in a ship or something, and you're about to see Tier 1.
We'll say that they found a way to get past spaghettification.
I don't want to talk about it because they don't need to go through spaghettification.
That's true.
Do you know why?
Because it's...
Me neither.
Good.
All right, so that brings us to Pillars of Creation, which doesn't have any lyrics because I just wanted to, stroke my ego a little bit.
But here's the thing, though. Pillars of Creation is an awesome song, first of all, and it's a song that every album we've ever released, and this isn't just us. This is a lot of bands that we have talked to. We had a conversation with Fallujah about this.
Oh, yeah.
They'll put a song in there that they think is pretty cool, but it's really just to meet more of a timestamp. And then tons of people are like, that's my favorite one. And you're like, what?
You're like, how is that the one? We didn't even, like, try on that song.
Yeah, so we had a lot of people, a lot being relative to the fan base we had at the time, which was maybe a couple hundred.
Yeah, not very much.
So a good portion of that 100 were like, Pillars of Creation is my favorite song. And all of us are like, I really appreciate that you have a favorite, like you like this album enough to have a favorite that like is kind of like hurting my heart in a good way, but that one?
Yeah, but that's the one? Like,
and then it came back.
Oh yeah,
on
Peripety on Tenebris.
Tenebris.
Yeah.
Which actually is a pretty good song.
Yeah. Okay, so that's it. Those are the lyrics. So thank you, Mark. Appreciate you being here.
Thanks for having me here. We'll do Iota, Peripety, the Almanac, Excipio. Oh, it's going to be Excipio, Iota, Peripety, the Almanac,
Bearing of Shadows,
Bearing a Shut,
Iota 2.
Ooh, we got a lot of work to do. Oh, Iota 2? God, that song.
Don't worry, we'll redo it. We'll redo it. I'll call the guy. Okay, that's it. Thanks. Okay, bye.